We Japanese still. You getting cooked in front of your family like a Japanese meal. It's Yashub the hibachi, and none of you niggas can stop me, but can't help but watch me. As promised, we are back. I'm doing this whole series to meticulously break down the 12 tribes chart and refute the 12 tribes chart. This is not a debunk video. You understand? This is a refutation. When you refute something, it's different than debunking. See, debunking is a lot like rebuttaling. Anyone can rebuttal. Anybody can just throw something out there. But we're going to go through the genetic ancestry of native indigenous people and compare it to the claims of the 12 tribes chart. Remember, the claims of the 12 tribes chart is that everybody on that chart goes back to a man named Jacob that lived sometime in the Middle Bronze, which be about 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. So, in order for that to be true, they should all share the same male ancestors. And how do we know if they share the same male ancestry? Through their Y chromosome. You're not going to get that through the mtDNA. mtDNA is for your maternal ancestry. You're not going to figure that out through the autosomal ancestry because that's for your admixture ancestry. And it only goes back a certain period. So, with that being stated, we're going to read articles on the common ancestry of indigenous groups. And we're going to see do they all converge back. Again, you got a lot of groups on this chart. You got a lot of groups with a varied ancestry. So even when we look at groups like African Americans, and on the chart they claim African Americans represent the tribe of Judah. That's problematic because this is not like the Eastern view or Israeli view that people are just Jews. There's groups of people to convert or all share similar practices. No, they're taking it to the next level, saying no, they're not just sharing practices or culture. They actually descend from a man named Judah. Why is that problematic? Because African Americans are a diverse group of people ancestrally. You have African Americans that have European ancestry. You have some African Americans that actually do have native indigenous ancestry. Normally it's on the maternal side, but we do see it on the paternal side. And once we get to Puerto Rico, you're going to see that within the Black African Puerto Ricans, they actually preserve the only known indigenous line. The only known indigenous line in Puerto Rico, right? Because here's another assumption that the IUIC, ISUPK, and GOCC and others who purport some kind of 12 tribes chart and propagate it. Another assumption they make is that the people that are there now represent the ancient people of yesteryear, pre-colonial. The issue with that is that there's a lot of Eurasian admixture, and especially in the Caribbean, your Puerto Ricans, your Cubans, so on and so forth. Central Americans, Southern Americans. There's a huge Eurasian component there. And in places like Puerto Rico, they have yet to find paternal ancestry that ties the local population and modern population to ancient Taino males. Well, yet they finally found it in 2023. And when we get to Puerto Rico, we'll explain it and reveal it. And it was actually found in the African group of Puerto Ricans, which is very, very telling because, Africans and Indians do have a history here on this side of the world, Western Hemisphere, post-colonial. They mixed, they got together, they clicked up. So we can actually see that in today's genetics. With that being stated, back to the 12 tribes chart. So for anybody who's thinking I'm misrepresenting these guys, again, I used to be a part of my USC. I used to teach this doctrine. I know the doctrine in and out. I used to go to bat for the doctrine. So, that's you misrepresenting them. No, I know this doctrine very, very well. But just in case you don't believe me, you can just go to IsraelUnited.org and type in Gad, and they'll tell you themselves. They believe the Israelites are Native Americans. Right? They believe the Israelites are Native Americans. Here's a 12 tribes chart, the up-to-date one on their website. Judah American blacks, Benjamin West Indies blacks, Levi Haitians, Ephraim the Puerto Ricans, Manessa, the Cubans, Simeon, the Dominicans. We just dealt with the Dominicans, right? Zebulon, Guatemala to Panama, the Mayans. Gad, the American Indians, and this is very general. We're just saying American Indians, but they, North American Indians is what they mean, I guess, in Canada. Reuben, the Seminole Indians, which is confusing because Gad and Reuben, the Seminole Indians are a subset of North American Indians. So that this is very confusing here. But this is the doctrine that they teach. Asher, Colombia to Uruguay, the Incas, Issachar, Mexican, the Aztecs, Naphtali, Argentina / Chile. And that's their 12 tribes chart. We're going to break down each claim here on Genesis 49ers, man. This is why I am Yashub ben Lucifer. This is why I am Hashatan. I am the greatest adversary and enemy to the Black Hebrew Israelite movement because I can easily come in and dissect this with genetic information and refute it. I'm not here to rebuttal. I'm not here to debunk. I'm here for a refutation. So a lot of people got to get that twisted. So what does it mean to refute? Let's type that in. What does it mean to refute? This is what it means to refute.
Refute.
Prove a statement or theory to be wrong or false. Disprove. Prove that someone is wrong. Deny or contradict a statement or accusation. And that's what I'm here to do. That's my sole job. Okay? That's my sole job here. My sole purpose on doing this breakdown here is to refute what's been said about the 12 tribes chart, refute the claims on the 12 tribes chart. And today we're going to be dealing with the idea of Gad being Native Americans, meaning that their ancestry should stem back. All of their ancestry should stem back to a man named Gad who lived in the Middle Bronze Age in the Levantine region. That's just have fun with this, man. And hopefully someone is getting educated because there's so much indoctrination out there from Black Hebrew Israelites to Afrocentrics to all groups. Oh, you hate these people. You hate your own people. Hating your own people is you're speaking against my doctrine. That's what that means. When someone says you hate their people or they throw out all these damn pejorative words nowadays, what they're really saying is, I don't like you refuting my theory, my doctrine. I don't like you going against my church, my ideology. I don't like that. That's what they're telling. You understand? Anyway, from there, let's get into this, man. There's some exclusive stuff here, right here, man. Up to date. So, bam, the first article. And I want this to be digestible, so I'm not going to be on here 3-4 hours. I want you guys to be able to watch this back and actually retain the information. First article, genome on the late Pleistocene human from a Clovis burial site in western Montana. This is back in 2014, y'all. The abstract, and remember, an abstract is the summation of the paper. The Clovis, with its distinctive biface blade and osseous technologies, is the oldest widespread archaeological complex defined in North America, dating from 11,000 to 10,700 calibrated years before present, 13,000 to 12,600 calendar years before present. Nearly 50 years of archaeological research point to the Clovis complex as having developed south of the North American ice sheets from an ancestral technology. However, both the origins and the genetic legacy of the people who manufactured Clovis tools remains under debate. It is generally believed that these people ultimately derived from Asia and were directly related to contemporary Native Americans. See, this was the belief. This was the belief, right? But 2014 brought something we call evidence. You understand? 2014 brought the bones, brought the actual genetic study, the examination of the genetics, proving that was the case. That these people are related to Northern Asians, which we're going to get right into it. Up-to-date paper in 2022, 2022 and 2023, right? That pretty much cements this. So no, these people do not derive their ancestry from Bronze Age Levantines. They do not derive their ancestry from Iron Age Israelites. The DNA is there to prove otherwise. And we have ancient DNA specimens to prove otherwise. See, there's some haplogroups that you don't have ancient DNA to confirm. So it's still up in the air. You know, as the saying goes, the jury's still out to lunch on that. But not with the Native Indigenous Americans. We have plenty of DNA specimens to compare and contrast on who these people descend from and where they come from. So y'all can't play that game. So let's continue reading here. An alternative Solotrean hypothesis posits that the Clovis predecessors immigrated from southwestern Europe during the last glacial maximum. If anybody don't know about the Solotrean hypothesis, they believe that during the glacial glacial age or the ice age, that the Atlantic River or parts of, the Atlantic Ocean are parts of or wholly frozen, like there were ice sheets on top of it. So they theorized that people could actually walk from Western Europe all the way to what is known as North America. That was one of the prevailing theories. It says, here we report the genome sequence of the male infant, Anzac 1, recovered from the Anzac burial site in western Montana. So this is Northern America. You know, I know some people today, Gen Zers, don't know the 50 states of America. So you got to explain that to our audience. So the human bones date to 10,705 plus or minus 35 calibrated years before present, approximately 12,707 to 12,556 calendar years before present, and were directly associated with Clovis tools. So they know this has something to do with the Clovis tool industry, as we ran earlier, the Clovis complex, and they dated the bones. All right, this is way before the Bronze Age in the Levant. It's not even in the Levant. It's nowhere near that. This is in Montana. This is in North America. Native indigenous people, their ancestry was already here before there was an Israelite, before there was an Egypt, you know, a dynastic Egypt, before any of those things, right? Before there's a putative Gad or a putative Jacob that may have lived in the Levant basin sometime 4,000 in the Middle Bronze Age. Before any of that, it predates that. They've always been here since this period. So this blows a huge hole in the theory that, or the assumption that the 12 tribes of Israel consist of native indigenous Indians, you know, and they somehow are related and converge with all African Americans and Latino groups, which we're going to get into that, because Latinos, they try to falsely equate or equivocate Latinos with indigenous peoples, when all Latinos are not related to indigenous peoples, right? And vice versa. So it says here, so just again, this is 12, 13,000 years ago for people that are just coming in. We sequence the genome. That's the important part. This is the important part. We get into genetics now. We can confirm who's who. We can confirm who's related to who by doing what? Sequence. It says, and show that the gene flow from the Siberian Upper Paleolithic Malta population into Native American ancestors is also shared by the Anzac 1 individual, and thus happened before 12,600 years before present. We also show that Anzac 1 individual is more closely related to all indigenous American populations than to any other group. So there's no way around it. This is the trump card, man. All my you know, all the people my age, y'all remember Yu-Gi-Oh? He said, you activated my trap card. You know what I'm saying? You just activated my trap card, man. So these people have been here prior to 13,000 years. I migrated here prior to 13,000 years. And gene flow, what does gene flow mean? Let's educate people here. Let's educate people. You know, I'm tired of this, man. These other channels, they just indoctrinate. We here to actually educate. What does the word gene flow mean? Let me blow this up. Gene flow, also called migration. You see how that works? Is any movement of individuals in or the genetic material they carry from one population to another. So what did we just read here? What did we just read here? And show that the gene flow from the Siberian Upper Paleolithic Malta population into Native American ancestors is also shared by the Anzic one individual and thus happened before 12,600 years before present. Again, long before the Levantine Bronze Age, long before the formulation of Israelites, long before pre-dynastic and dynastic Egypt, long before any of those periods, long before the Babylonians, Assyrians, etc., 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 because the explanation or the mechanism of getting the Native Americans on the 12 tribe chart is the idea of Second Ezra's account that after the Assyrians came in and plundered the Israelites, that he somehow deported them, and they decided to flee themselves and set sail to what is known as the Americas. Well, that's impossible because they would have already been in the Americas thousands and thousands and thousands of years before that event even took place, before there was a cultural complex known as Assyrians, before there was a cultural complex known as Israelites. That demic diffusion does not jive. This is why Black Hebrew Israelites and Afrocentrics alike, they run from DNA. They don't just not deal with it. They don't just avoid, they run from DNA. No one wants to have the DNA discussion. Nobody wants to debate this. We challenged y'all. We called you guys out. None of you guys want the smoke because, you know, at the end of the day, the bodies in the ground are going to speak. For all you Bible believers, you should know what scripture I'm referencing. The bodies in the ground are going to speak for themselves. You understand? This is why I'm Hashatan. I am the great adversary. None of you Black Hebrew Israelites can combat with me, man. None of you. Because you're not going to deal with the facts at the table. You're not going to deal with the bodies that were found in the ground. You're going to rely on interpretation battles. I don't care about your interpretation. Where is the empirical data to back up any of these wild claims? Because what we're finding in the ground is that indigenous peoples are related to North Asians, are related to Siberians, the Malta population. Anyway. We also show that the Anzic one individual is more closely related to all indigenous American populations than to any other group. Our data are compatible with the hypothesis that Anzic one belonged to a population directly ancestral to many contemporary Native Americans. Let me read that again. Sometimes you can't just stab, you can't just throw the blade in there. You got to twist the blade. You got to twist it, man. You can't just stab. You got to twist. You got to put them out their misery. So we're going to read it again until you guys get it. So it says here, our data are compatible with the hypothesis that Anzic one belonged to a population directly ancestral to many contemporary Native Americans. Finally, we find evidence. See, this is something Black Hebrew Israelites lack. That word right there. Evidence of a deep divergence in Native American populations that predates the Anzic one individual. Now we're going to go to the up-to-date science on this and talk about that deep divergence and show you what these Native and indigenous people were. They have a long continuity in the Americas. They were here before the formulation of Israelites. They were here before Assyrians. They were here before Babylonians, pre-dynastic Egyptians. They were here before. They were in the Americas doing their thing. Right? You know, pushing the line from the north to the south, all over America. Now, so let's show where is this area at. So this is Montana. This is clearly North America. You can see what tribes are there today: the Crow, Blackfeet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is not an attack on Native Indigenous ancestry. Many groups have Native Indigenous ancestry. Latinos have Native Indigenous ancestry. Black Americans have Native Indigenous ancestry. But what this is an attack on is the idea that everybody on that chart are Israelites, right? This is why I don't push or propagate Israelite doctrine anymore, because first of all, it becomes a racial purist idea. This is totally a racial purist idea. Believing that you can just grab all these groups and fit them in a category of shared experience and then say they all descend from one man. That's racial purism, which I do not support. And what happens is many of these leaders are too indolent to study, or, have their heads so far up their own ass that they don't want to study any information that contradicts their own. You have to follow the evidence wherever it may lead. You have to. I don't know how you call yourself a scholar, a student, or anything. A lot of you guys use the word disciple. That means student. I don't know how you guys claim to be Bible believers. The Bible says to prove all things, ignore nothing, small or great. I thought y'all was Bible believers. So what are we going to do with this information? This boy was found in Montana, in North America, and his genetics pretty much link all modern Native Americans, as we can see here. And here's another imagery here. Montana, that's the burial site. That's where they found Anzac 1. Named after the lady that discovered the bone. Her last name was Anzac, as you can see here. All these indigenous tribes are related to this ancient boy that lived 13,000 years ago. It's just that simple. So if we go back to the IsraelUnite.org again, for all you people that are going to levy the claim that, you misrepresenting them. No, this is literally what they teach. It says right here, Gad was the seventh born son of Jacob. So they believe that these groups descend back to Gad, a son of Jacob. So what we should see with all these groups, we see American blacks, West Indies blacks, Haitians, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Dominicans, Guatemalans, all these groups they have, American Indians. All these groups that they got listed here should all share the same Y chromosome DNA, and they don't even share the same geography. They don't even share the same geography in times past, because as we can see, that these groups were in the Americas 13,000 years ago. And later on in the video, we're going to show a continuity. They stayed in the Americas. They traveled throughout the Americas. That's what we see with the data available by testing the bodies in the ground. And as you can see on the screen, that is a claim of Black Hebrew Israelites. Anyway, next article. Like I said, this is not going to be too long. I want this to be very, very digestible. So this paper came out in 2020. The post-last glacial maximum expansion of Y chromosome haplogroup C2a. Now, what is a haplogroup? A haplogroup is a group of individuals that share a common male ancestor. While you're watching my videos, you need to know the terminology, because these people will try to trip you up and trick you with their word sorcery, right? And trying to tell you that all that matters is the Bible. No, all that matters is your interpretation of the Bible. You try to pigeonhole people to that. That's why your leaders are so indolent and don't want to go out and read and study this stuff. If you're going to talk about ancestry, you're going to have the genetic discussion. It's integral to the ancestral discussion. Post-last glacial maximum expansion of Y chromosome haplogroup C2a, L1373 in Northern Asia. This is key, Northern Asia, and its implications for the origin of Native Americans. I mean, it's all in the title here. You can see everyone who partook in this paper, Jen Soon et al. And we're going to read the abstract. Again, the abstract is the summation of the paper. The abstract, objectives. Sub-branches of Y chromosome haplogroup C2a, L1373 are founding paternal lineages in Northern Asia and Native American populations. Our objective was to investigate C2a, L1373 differentiation in Northern Asia and its implications for Native American origins. So again, for the viewing audience, Native Americans do not go back to the Levant. They go back to Northern Asia. So you get the geography wrong, and you also are anachronistic, because now you're getting the timing wrong, because these Native Americans don't go back to the Bronze Age Levantine region. They go back to Northern Asia. And we're going to get the times here. Materials and methods. Sequences are rare sub-branches number equal 43 and ancient individuals number 37. They got 37 ancient individuals to back up the claim. Black Hebrew Israelites got 0. The people that's in the field that's studying this stuff and exhuming the bodies, they got 37 bodies to compare and contrast. Number of 37 of C2a L1373, including P39 and MP373, were used to construct phylogenetic trees with age estimation by B software. Now, someone might be watching, like, what are all these words? What is L1? This is just the name of the SNPs, which are parts of the Y chromosome that they use to categorize that group. Okay, so I don't want to lose nobody. Results: C2a L1373 expanded rapidly, approximately 17.7 thousand to 14.3 thousand years ago, after the last glacial maximum, generating numerous sublineages, which became founding paternal lineages of modern Northern Asians and Native American populations. The Northern Asians being C2a P39 and the Native Americans having an MP373. As we're going to read on, this founding population is the population that birthed these Native Americans, right? As we just read. The divergent pattern supports possible initiation of differentiation in low latitude regions in Northern Asia and northward diffusion after the LGM, the last glacial maximum. There is a substantial gap between the divergent times of C2a MPB373, approximately 22.4 or 17.7 thousand years ago, and CPA P39, approximately 14.3 thousand years ago, indicating two possible migration waves. Discussion. We discussed the decreasing time interval of the Beringene standstill, 2.5 thousand years or smaller, and its reduced significance. We also discussed the multiple possibilities for the peopling of the Americas. For anybody that don't know about the Beringer and the Beringer Strait and the standstill, real quick, I'll give you a popcorn lesson on this. The standstill is talking about a retreat of the ice sheets, because if you're going to use this as a mode of transportation, in a medium for a mode of transportation, the ice sheets have to retreat and the weather has to be somewhat favorable for migration and temporal stay. Because if it's all covered with ice and it's all frozen, then you can't get any food. It's inhospitable. It's hard to live in those conditions. So you want that area to be clear. So that's what that means, the Beringia standstill. I have an old video going against the Beringia, and because I misunderstood what that meant. So I thought since that time period was inhospitable, the Beringia crossing could never happen. And that paper was not saying that and purporting that. Maybe in the future I will go back and refute my old stuff, because Moore told me I got to do that, and now I see that is necessary. So that's going to happen in the future. Go back to the old videos and start refuting that. But anyway, back to the video. We also discussed the multiple possibilities for the peopling of the Americas, the long-term Beringian standstill model, the short-term Beringian standstill model, and the analysis that the direct ancestor group of Native Americans is an admixture of ancient Northern Siberians and Paleolithic communities from the Amur region, which appeared during the post-last glacial maximum era rather than late glacial maximum. So, with that being stated, I don't have to read the rest of this. I shouldn't have to read the rest of this. After this, it gets redundant, because at the end of the day, the dead bodies in the ground that were exhumed, that date thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, don't point back to the Levant. They point back to Northern Asia. They point back to these regions, to these Siberians. That's what they point back to. The common ancestry found in all Native Americans point back to that region. They don't go back to the Levant, right? Especially in the time frame that you people are suggesting. And I know y'all going to bring up the X2 argument. I brought up the X2 argument. I'm probably the channel you watched and got the X2 argument from because I read Donald Yates' book back then. And Donald Yates used that argument to say that they were ancient Israelites. That's garbage. The reason why these people have the X2 mitochondrial DNA is because they come from North Siberians. They come from North Asians. That's how they got the X2 mitochondrial DNA. Let's go. Let's go, man. Introduction. This is really going to be the dagger to the heart of the Black Hebrew Israelite pseudos. And the reason why it's going to be the dagger to the heart because the evidence is not on your side. None of the evidence comports with any of the crazy, nonsensical BS that your elders are teaching you. None of it. Previous archaeological and genetic studies have revealed the processes involved in the appearance of modern humans in Northern Asia and the re-expansion in this region after the last glacial maximum. And you got all the sources to back that up. You see how they deal? They deal with sources. They deal with evidence. You see how they do that? You know, you guys deal with a bunch of pseudo misinformation, but when we go to the real deal, they're pulling out all type. How many sources? There got to be 14, 15 sources right there backing up what they just said. It says a series of Paleolithic sites have been found in Northern Asia, ranging from the Altai Mountains to the Chukchi Peninsula, and ancient DNA studies have demonstrated that an ancient North Eurasian population represented by the genome of Malta contributed significantly to the gene pool of modern Eurasian and Native Americans. The occurrence of the last glacial maximum, approximately 24,000, 18,000 years ago, intentionally reshaped the genetic structure of populations in Northern Asia. After the late glacial maximum, ancient populations from different locations were redistributed throughout the region. Long-term admixture among these ancient populations eventually led to the emergence of the modern populations of Northern Asia. And as the source there. According to previous investigations, the paternal gene pool of populations in Northern Asia is composed of 4 Y chromosome haplogroups and numerous rare lineages. For example, haplogroup N M78, the only founding paternal lineage of Uralic-speaking populations, reached high frequencies in numerous Tungus, Mongolic, and Turkic-speaking populations, while haplogroup C2a M504 is one of the founding paternal lineages of Mongolic-speaking populations. So, real quick, the modern Native Americans today share a common ancestry with Mongolic peoples, not Levantine peoples. and it's a sharp contrast because a lot of the people in your group, they don't share this common ancestry, which would pretty much destroy the fabric of the argument, the crux of the argument. Because again, remember the 12 tribes chart is saying that everybody on the chart descends from a man named Jacob that lived in the Middle Bronze in the Levant. Well, how could that be if there's so many different Y haplogroups? Each Y haplogroups pretty much denote a different male group that they descend from. You're going to have to swallow this black pill, man. You're going to have to swallow it. There's nothing else you can do. It says here, studies of both ancient DNA and modern population. This is where you guys, this is the dagger to you guys. This is the, the death knell. Had demonstrated that haplogroup C2a F1756 was a dominant lineage in the ancient Dunghu, Shimbi, Shiwe, and Rauran populations. Haplogroup C2a M86 is the only founding paternal lineage of Tungusic-speaking people. Most sublineages of these 4 paternal haplogroups emerged in the last 5,000 years. There are many minor subbranches of C2a L1373, and samples of these sub-branches have been randomly detected among populations from Eurasia and America. I don't think y'all heard that right. I gotta keep going back like I'm Jermaine Dupri. I gotta keep bringing it. Oh my God. Let me read again. There are many minor sub-branches of C2a L1373. Where does this come from again? Northern Asia. Just in case I'm losing anybody. And samples of these sub-branches have been randomly detected among populations from Eurasia and America, such as B77, M8574 in Japanese populations. In general, the origin and fusion process of most of these rare lineages remains ambiguous. Previous studies have revealed a wide distribution of CM130, C2M217, or C2P39 among indigenous peoples of the Americas. So that goes back to Eurasia and America. We see this lineage in Eurasia and America. Why? Because these people emerged in North Asia, migrated to what we know as America, whether through the Bering Strait or around the Bering Strait, which is known as the coastal route. Either way, the DNA on both sides match up. The bodies in the ground on both sides match. You can't argue against that. You can't Deuteronomy 28:68 against that. You know, you can't go to the book of Hosea. None of that's going to help. This is what I'm talking about, man. As you can see, what it says, among indigenous peoples of the Americas. And you see all of the sources there. All of the sources and previous writers on this subject here. Importantly, a recent study identified a new lineage, MPB373, in Waranka population from Ecuador. And the author suggested that the new data support a short Beringia standstill period during the formation of the ancestral group of Native Americans. Ancient DNA analysis suggested that the 10,000-year-old CP19 individual from Brazil and the 7.4 thousand-year-old Neo239 from Primorsky territory of Russia also belong to the MP373 lineage. So again, you have both from both sides of the Beringia, these groups are matching up. They're sharing the same paternal ancestry. You got an ancient individual in Russia sharing the same ancestry with an individual in Ecuador, which is in South America. You have an individual in Russia sharing ancient DNA with an individual living in Brazil, which is also in South America. So there is no question where these people come from. Northern Asia. Let's keep going. It's about to get dark. These modern and ancient data and suggested that sub-branches of haplogroup CM130 is one of the founding paternal lineages of Native Americans. The Beringia standstill hypothesis has been the most popular theory regarding the origin of Native Americans in past decades. The arguments and inferences of this hypothesis suggest that A, the direct ancestors of Native Americans migrated to the Beringia about 32 or 22,000 years ago. The differentiation of Native American related genetic components happened in the greater Beringia region during the last glacial maximum. And C, the eastward expansion from Beringia during the post-last glacial maximum era led to the emergence of Native Americans and their westward diffusion from Beringia, and that this so-called back migration is the source of most closely related lineages of Native Americans in Siberia and of northern Eurasians. 31.6 thousand-year-old Yana archaeological site was once considered to be the strongest evidence in support of this hypothesis. We argue that the current available evidence, but that word again, I know you Black Hebrew Israelites hate and despise that word. I know y'all hate and despise that word, right? Evidence, because evidence don't work in your favor. Come on, man. We argue that the current available evidence are inconsistent with the previous hypothesis, which proposed that an ancient people group in Siberia were concentrated in Beringia. one of the coldest regions during the last glacial maximum, and diffused from there to the most parts of the northeast Siberia in America after the last glacial maximum. And I used to read articles, not understanding the argument. The argument of the article was not that Native Americans never migrated over here from North Asia. The argument was during the time period, the Beringia would be inhospitable, as I said earlier, and they may have took a coastal route, right? Anyway, it says the most advanced analysis of ancient DNA from the Yana RHS populations suggests that ancestor groups of A&E, multi-individual, ancient Paleo-Siberian, and ancient Beringians shared the components from ancient North Siberians. And these ancestor groups diverged before the last glacial maximum. The admixture of East Asian and ANS-related ancestry gave birth to ancient Paleo-Siberians, ancient Beringian, and direct ancestral group of Native Americans, and likely happened about 20,000 years ago. Again, time is not on your side, and geography is not on your side. This is not in the Levant. This is in Northern Asia. We're dealing with Paleo-Siberians, right? We're not even anywhere close to the Levant right now. And this is 20,000 years ago we're talking. 20,000. All right? In order for your 12 tribes chart to work, you need all those groups: Jamaicans, Haitians, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Central Americans, South Americans, American Indians. You need all the Black African Americans. You need all those groups to converge to one male that lived in the Bronze Age. You have no evidence supporting that. This is why this is a refutation, not a rebuttal, not a debunk video. You don't have none of the evidence is on your side. None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. All right. The northward diffusion of admixed populations likely happened after the late glacial maximum, and is likely reflected by the spread of microblade technology during the last glacial maximum era, as determined by archaeological research, and due to the lack of East Asian components. The ancient population represented by the 31.6 thousand-year-old Yana individual is not a direct ancestor group of Native Americans. Two recent ancient DNA studies provided more details about demographic history in Northeast Asia. The Chukota, and North Americans since the late Pleistocene. In general, ancient DNA evidence generated by modern techniques are inconsistent with the basal arguments for the long-term Beringia standstill hypothesis. In our previous study, we identified the most closely related haplogroup to founding lineages of indigenous peoples of the Americas among Eurasian samples, and proposed that the appearance of the ancestor group of indigenous peoples of the Americas was part of the great Q1L53. And I can't wait till we get to Puerto Rico, because when we get to Puerto Rico, we're going to deal with the only group that conserves this lineage in Puerto Rico, because majority of the male lineages, if not most of the male lineages of indigenous Tainos, have died off. The only group to retain this Q1L53 descendant are the Black Puerto Ricans. I can't wait to get to that. I can't wait. Listen, man, when I read that, and that's another thing too, none of y'all niggas is touching my library game, man. I've been past y'all on that. Y'all not touching my library game. I just got to glow for a second, man. I take pride in what I do. I actually care about the subject matter, and I utilize my free time to build on these things. Anyway, Americas was part of the great Q1L53 diffusion throughout Eurasia after the last glacial maximum. In this study, we focus on the more detailed origin process of Y chromosome haplogroups P39 and MPB3. 373, as we read earlier, that had an ancient individual in Ecuador and an ancient individual in Russia, showing that this ancient lineage converges in Northern Asia. It says, which are founding paternal lineages in Native Americans. We analyzed the Y chromosome sequence of 43 males belonging to rare sub-branches of C2a L1373. A revised phylogeny with age estimation was reconstructed for all available sub-branches of C2a L1373. We explore the origin and diversification process of these sublineages in the Paleolithic age. In particular, we focus on the branching patterns of rare sub-branches and use of phylogeographic evidence to explore the origin of P39 and B373 in Native Americans. Overall, we have generated a refined Y chromosome phylogenetic tree with accurate dating. So y'all ain't gonna get around this. Ain't no Deuteronomy 28 getting around this. You understand? Oh, go to the Songs of Solomon. That's not gonna help your ass. Accurate dating. So these people go back 20,000 years. They don't go back to the Levant. They go back to North Asia. They go back to these regions. They don't go back to anything that will preclude or make someone presume that they are Israelites, that they are sons of Jacob in your words. Because that's what the 12 tribes chart is trying to achieve. They're trying to prove and cement that all those groups, the Native Indians, the Haitians, and so on and so forth, all go back to one man named Jacob. And we've already showed that Q1L53 is a founding paternal lineage of Native Americans, and C2a is a founding paternal lineage. That's two different male groups. And they live way before. And this is not a mystery because we have the ancient DNA to back up the data. They live way before the Bronze Age Levantine region, and these people went to the Americas. And they maintain a continuity in the Americas. How do we know? Because the ancient people that were there before Columbus are the ancient people there after Columbus. That's called a genetic continuity. Anyway. All right. It says here, overall, we have generated a refined Y chromosome phylogenetic tree with accurate dating to explore the origin and diffusion of C2a L1373 sublineages and their contributions during the formation of the ancestral group of Native Americans. Right? So we're going to go down from the materials and data analysis for the sake of the video. I want y'all to see this map here real quick before we move on. So figure 1 is a geographic distribution of studied samples. Green, big, and small trapezoid for modern and ancient samples. So the big green and small the big trapezoids are modern. The small trapezoids are ancient samples, as you can see here. Big ones are modern, small are ancient. It says here of rare subbranches of C2a L1373, respectively, gray, big, and small circles for modern ancient samples that belong to the 3 major branches of C2a L1373. So the same thing with the circles. The big ones are modern and the small ones are ancient samples. So we have plenty of samples as we read earlier. 37 samples. 37 samples. There's no way you're getting around this. 37 samples. All right. It says here, respectfully, red, big, and small square for samples from America. The detailed categories can be found on figure 2, figure S1, and table S1, as you can see, the Americans. So there is genetic overlap here. The big ones are modern, small ones, ancient. And they all match up. Meaning they share common ancestry, right? Which debunks all of this. This is the Native American homeland here, not the Levant. The Levant's all the way over here in this area here. They are from these regions. And as you can see right there, 14,000 years ago, this is long before the formulation of the Israelites, the Assyrians, so on and so forth. It's long before any of that. And they're over here in this region. So let's get to the results. The geographic location of the study samples presented in figure 1, the revised phylogenetic tree of haplogroup C2a L1373 contained 1,816 non-private variants and 2,257 private variants. Besides the major subbranches to C2a L1373, we identified 27 other rare sublineages. The newly discovered sublineages and variants will assist in studying the paternal gene pool of populations in Northern Asia. In the future, again, these people are, look at the map, they're tying to people in Northern Asia. Within China, samples of rare C2a L1373 sublineages came from the northern boundary of China, showing the same pattern as of the 3 major subbranches of C2a L1373. Other samples of rare C2a L1373 sublineages were from the Kamchatka Peninsula, Amur River region. Remember, this is supposed to be the birthplace of ancestral Native Americans right here. Korea, Japan, Central Europe, and northern Pakistan. 2 Native American individuals with P39 and MPB373 sequences were tentatively labeled as from the northern North America. Due to lack of data, the distribution of rare C2a L1373 sublineages in Mongolia is unclear, except for the observation of P53.2 in previous studies. And I want to say this real quick. If you make these Native American Israelites, what about these groups in the Kamchatka Peninsula or the Amur River region or Korea and Japan or the people in the boundary of China? You would have to all say, to be logically consistent, you would have to say all those groups are Israelites too. You would have to, because they're directly related to each other. All right? It says here, in general, we conclude that the distribution of rare sublineages of C2a L1373 is concentrated in the low latitude regions of northern Asia, ranging from the Amur River region to the Mongolian plateau in the adjacent regions. And this is what you see here. This is what the map is detailing. Okay. So it says here, the samples from Central Europe and northern Pakistan are likely results of migrations from Eastern Eurasia in recent history. And then we have here the phylogenetic tree. This is going to break your heart as well. The phylogenetic tree of haplogroup C2a L1373 samples showing the post-last glacial maximum expansion. The categories of the samples are the same with figure 1. The definitive Y-SNP markers of sub-branches were listed on the right side. Besides, dashed lines were used to indicate ancient DNA samples. So anytime you see these dashed lines, those are ancient DNA samples. Ancient DNA samples here. 6.8 thousand years ago, 8.6 thousand years ago, 7,000 years ago, 14,000 years ago, as we've seen later, saying earlier on this map here, all going back to Northern Asia here. These are all shared with Native Americans. Look, check this out. Brazil, CP19, Brazil, 10,000 years ago, MPB373. We read about that earlier. The hell is a Native Indian matching with a Russian? This is what Devil's Gate, 7.4 thousand years ago. The same paternal ancestor, and they all branch from L1373, which is a branch of C2a. They're Northern Asians. That's their ancestry. Ultimately, they go back to Northern Asia. All right. The name of the 5 ancient individuals of haplogroup C2a L1373 that are older than 5,000 years were also shown on the figure, including Neo 239, individual from Devil's Gate. That's what we just read. That's in Russia. And Primorsky of Russia. The CP19 individual from Brazil. The UKY001 individual from Buryatia of Russia. The IU0001 individual from Russia. And the DA357 Baikal from the Baikal Lake region of Russia. These Native Indians are related to Russians, ancient Russians, because again, their ancestry converges in Northern Asia. That's what all we're doing. All we're doing is buttressing that claim. Anyway, y'all gonna Deuteronomy 28 yourselves to death, man. The reconstructed phylogeny of C2a L1373 with age estimates indicated that this paternal haplogroup experienced a rapid expansion between 17.7 and 14.3 thousand years ago. Besides the major subbranches M504, 517, 56, and M86, there are numerous minor subbranches of C2a L1373. C2a P39, C2a MPB373 found in Native Americans, were 2 of the 12 sublineages older than 14,000 years ago. So again, these same lineages we find in Asians are found in Native Americans. Why? Because they're relatives. The sublineage of C2a P39 diverged from its most closely related lineage at approximately 4.3 thousand years ago. Sublineage MP373 found in a Native American from Ecuador remains in the earliest branch of C2a L1373. Due to the low coverage of sequence data, there were no results for the sample from the Waranka 9586 individual for 84 of the 192 variants. Therefore, lineage MP373 split from the trunk of L1373 at either 22.4 or 17.7 thousand years ago. This is all old ancient stuff, and this is that split point on the chart here. More good quality sequences are needed to determine a more confident divergence time for this lineage. We also reanalyzed the available 37 ancient DNA of haplogroup C2a L1373. It's got all the sources here. Again, y'all don't like sources, right? Y'all don't like sources, but this is how real academics work. You got to cite your sources. It says the 7.4 thousand year old Neo 239 individual from Devil's Gate 5 site is positive on YSNP BY119182. That's belong to haplogroup C2a2 MP373. Again, this is the lineage that we find in Russia, the same one we found in Brazil, the same one we found in Ecuador. It says the 10,000 year old CP19 individual from Brazil shared the A to G variant on haplogroup 38 168 74158 with Waronka 9586. Thus also belong to C2A2 MP373. So what is this saying? They all share the same paternal group. Ultimately, they all descend from the same group of males, which are North Asians, not Levantines, let alone Bronze Age Levantines or Israelites or anything like that. The Neo 239 individual from the Amur River region provide a clue for the early origin of haplogroup C2A2 in North Asia. This is where the Native Americans are coming from. And the CP19 individual represented as the oldest sample of haplogroup C2A2 MPB373. The 14,000-year-old UKY001 individual from Buryatia of Russia is positive on 3 equivalents of P39. Thus, the sample represents the earliest branch of P39 on the Eurasia. Given that the paternal lineage P39 is unique for Native Americans in previous studies, this is a surprise and an important finding. The great affinity of autosome genome and Y chromosome between UKY001 individual and Native Americans. Why is this? Because maybe I'm losing some of y'all. Why is this important? They share the same Y chromosome, man. That P39 SNP, the only way you can get a SNP on your Y chromosome is from a man having sex with a woman and reproducing. That's the only way. You can't get it from osmosis. So that means they share the same male somewhere down the line. There's no way around it. So let's read it again. And that SNP is P39. It says, this is a surprise and important finding. The great affinity of autosome genome and Y chromosome between UKY001 individual and Native Americans. This ancient Russian individual and Native Americans suggested that low latitude region of Northern Asia may be the region where the admixture happened and the source of the direct ancestor group of Native Americans. I'm gonna read that. I got a Jermaine Dupree, the whole thing, man. Let me read that again. The great affinity of autosome genome and Y chromosome between UKY001 individual and Native Americans suggested that the low latitude region of Northern Asia may be the region where the admixture happened and the source of the direct ancestor group of Native Americans. And where is this at? This region here. This is where Native Americans come from. This is where their deep ancestry comes from. This region right here. And then UKY001, that's the one that shared the P39 SNP on the Y chromosome. Only way he could have that in common with Brazilians and ancient Ecuadorians, that they share ancient male ancestor. Only way. And that's the motherfucking deal, man. Anyway, let's keep going. Oh, you curse. I don't give a damn. I've been telling y'all, I am the head chairman of the I Don't Give a Damn committee. How many times I gotta keep saying that? Anyway, post last glacial maximum differentiation of C2a L1373 due to high frequencies of F1756, M504, and M86 among modern populations. Most previous studies have focused on the expansion process of these 3 major subbranches of C2a L1373 and their role during the formation of proto-Mongols. Now, I'm listening to all the relatives of Native Americans here. Proto-Mongols, modern Mongolic-speaking populations, Tungusic-speaking populations. In this study, we focus on the early differentiation history of rare subbranches of C2a L1373 after the separation of C2b F1067 approximately 35,000 years ago. Haplogroup C2a L1373 experienced an extremely long-term bottleneck effect for about 17,000 years. After the last glacial maximum, The rapid differentiation of this haplogroup gave rise to 12 sublineages older than 14.3 thousand years. As discussed in the section above, most samples rare C2a L1373 sublineages were found in populations from low latitude regions of northern Asia, such as the Amur River region, the Mongolian Plateau, the northern boundary of China, and the adjacent areas. Previous studies have also demonstrated that the Amur River region is the Yerhamat of F1756, and Yerhamat is just a way of saying homeland. M504 and M86 before their expansion in the last several thousand years. So again, the Amur River seems to be the most plausible explanation for their ancestral homeland. It says here, let me go down here after they source everything up. Based on these findings and available ancient DNA, like Neo 239 individual haplogroup C2a2 and the UKY001 individual C2a1b473, we propose that the initial differentiation of C2a L1373 began in a low latitude region of northern Asia, likely the Amur River region, and the continuous splitting of pattern of C2a L1373 between 18 and 14,000 years ago may correspond with the repeopling of northern Asia from the south in the north and west after the last glacial maximum. I mean, at this point, it's just getting redundant. We're really recapitulating at this point. But the point has been driven home. These people are not Native Americans. That chart doesn't make any sense. We have ancient data to pretty much bash this damn thing to pieces and refute every point on the chart, which we will do on the channel. I'm dealing with every claim on that chart. Every claim on that chart is getting torn down. All right. So anyway, the decreasing time interval of the Beringian standstill is reduced significance. The time interval of the Beringian standstill decreased significantly due to the advances in genetic studies in the past decades. The original proposal in the perspective of the Yanasite and mitochondrial DNA argued a 15,000 years of standstill from 31,000 to 16,000 years ago. However, Rockhaven et al. 2015 suggested that the ancestors of Native Americans separated from their relatives in Northeast Asia at about 23,000 years ago. Thus, they entered the Americas no earlier than 23,000 years ago, and the isolation period of Beringia lasted for no more than 8,000 years. After the analysis of the genomes of ancient USR1 individual, scholars demonstrated that the common ancestors of Native Americans diverged at about 20.9 thousand years ago, and the location of this divergent event may happen in either northern Asia or eastern Beringia. Therefore, if there is a Beringia standstill, it may have lasted for 6,000 years, from 21 to 16,000 years ago. Most importantly, the analysis of the ancient DNA of two individuals from the Yana site revealed that the ancient Yana population went into extinction and did not contribute directly to Native American groups. Study in Panotti et al. 2019 proposed a Beringian standstill duration of 2.7 or 4.6 thousand years. The Y chromosome evidence in the study support the argument from ancient DNA analysis that the direct ancestor group of Native Americans is an admixture. I want everybody to pay attention to this. If you ain't hear nothing else, you got to walk away from this video on this. The paternal ancestors, the fathers. Remember, they're claiming that Native Americans go back to Jacob, right? But this is their real paternal ancestry here. It says that the direct ancestor group of Native Americans is an admixture of ancient northern Siberians and Paleolithic communities from the Amur region, which appeared during the post-last glacial maximum era, aka also known after 18,000 years ago. It is also worth noting that it may take a long period of time for the admixed populations to migrate toward the Great Beringia region. Therefore, the actual interval of standstill in the Great Beringia region may be less than 2,000 or 1,000 years. In general, the small time interval suggested by Panotti et al. 2019 in this study make it very possible that the pattern interpreted as a standstill is possibly just a part of the peopling process from southern Siberia. And if there was a standstill, its length of time make it much less significant as an evolutionary force than initially thought. Now let's deal with the multiple possibilities for the peopling of Americans. I mean, this whole paper is drilling home that these people are originally from, are autochthonous to Northern Asia. It says here, it is generally accepted that the South Siberia is the source of the founding paternal lineages QM242. So the two main male lineages have already been discussed here. Q and C2. C2a and QM242. Those are the two main male lineages found here in the ancient Americas. It says here, it is generally accepted that South Siberia is the source of founding paternal lineages QM242 of Native America. The modern Yanesian speaking populations is considered as the mostly close relatives of Native Americans among the Eurasians. Well, look at that. You got Yanesian speakers which live in Asia, and they match with modern or ancient Native Americans. The gig is up. The gig is up. It's over with. It's done. It's finished. You got people from both sides of the Beringia matching genetically, whether it's haplogroup C or haplogroup Q. It says the refuge of ancient populations with QM242 during the last glacial maximum may be located in southern Siberia. In this study, we propose that the Amur region is likely the expansion center of C2a L1373 after the last glacial maximum, and this region is far from the southern Siberian region. Therefore, the ancient population of the South Siberian Amur region during the last glacial maximum may be two major ancestries of the Native Americans. It will potentially take an extended period of time for a population from southern Siberia to admix with migrants from the Amur River region and generate the direct ancestor group of Native Americans in the Beringia region. The source of diverse genetic lineages. The splitting time for the mitochondrial DNA found in lineages of Native Americans and their most closely related lineages among Eurasians differ substantially from one another. In a previous study, we revealed, and hold on, I want everybody to listen to this part because it's going to deal with the mitochondrial DNA X2a, and a lot of you Black Hebrew Israelites who probably watch my video are using that argument. You're using the argument of mitochondrial DNA X2a to say that they're ancient Israelites. That is incorrect. You guys are interpreting that wrong, and you got that from me, possibly, and I got that from Donald Yates, which is a damn pseudo. So let's just get straight to the damn case here. It says here, in a previous study, we revealed that the three founding paternal lineages of Native Americans, QM3, QZ780, and CP39, diverged from each other in very ancient times. Previous studies considered that the divergent genetic lineages and ancestor group of Native Americans are results of long-term differentiation as a single and isolated population in the Beringia region. However, as revealed by the analysis of the ancient genomes, the source of Native American ancestry was more broadly spread across Siberia during the Upper Paleolithic, and this basal Native American group experienced multiple genetic contacts with Northeast Asian populations, giving rise to distinct ancient Siberian populations. Therefore, we propose that there may be two sources for the observed diversity in the gene pool of the ancestor group of Native Americans. The first source is a reservation of the diverse lineages in their ancestor groups in South Siberia and the Amur River region. The second source may be the newly emerged components during their migration from southern Siberia toward Beringia, rather than wild and long-term isolation in Beringia. This region remains of microblade technology are extremely rare in sites of Dayuktai culture, 35 to 13,000 years ago, which is the earliest culture identified by archaeology in Northeast Asia. The Dayuktai culture was replaced by the Sunagan culture 10.5 to 6,000 years ago, which left remains indicating flourishing microblade technology which diffused from low-latitude regions of northern Asia. Archaeologists have suggested that ancient populations of the Dayuktai culture migrated to North America in an earlier age, while ancient populations with microblade technology entered North America later. These two ways of migration led to the prevalence of microblade technology in the northern part of North America, while remains of such technology are rare in the southern North America, while the whole of South America. More analysis of ancient remains of Dayuktai culture are crucial for the evolutionary history of ancestor group of Native Americans in Siberia. Possible three-way diffusion. Overall, we suggest that the transition to stone technology, the diversion pattern of C2a MP373 and C2a P39, and the process of emergence of the three groups of indigenous peoples of the Americas support multiple waves of migration model regarding the origin of Native Americans. The second wave of migration may give rise to the ancestors of the Nadini-speaking populations, while the other Native Americans may be descendants of ancient peoples in the first wave of migration. Another later wave of migration could have given rise to the ancestors of the Eskimo Aleut-speaking populations. The gap between the splitting times of different founding paternal and maternal lineages of Native Americans may correspond to long distance migration from low latitude regions of northern Asia. Again, we're almost finished with this paper, and nothing in this paper, nothing from the ancient samples suggests an ancient Israelite connection, and nothing suggests that these people descend from Jacob. Nothing suggests that they're ancient Hebrews. Nothing. The languages, all that, the genetics, the geography, none of it comports with Black Hebrew Israelite claims. None of it. It says here, region of northern Asia to Beringia region and to the admixture during migration. The admixed population may not have stayed in Beringia region for long before entering the American continent. In summary, we suggest that the evidence regarding paternal founding lineages presented in this study support the findings of ancient DNA analysis, which propose that the direct ancestor group of Native Americans is an admixture of ancient northern Siberians and late Paleolithic communities in the Amur region who diffused toward Northeast Asia after the last glacial maximum era, rather than the ancient populations in greater Beringia or adjacent regions before the last glacial maximum. In conclusion, we collected a large sample set of rare C2a L1373 sublineages from Eastern Eurasian populations and provided evidence for clear differentiation pattern of these sublineages between 18 and 14,000 years ago, based on the distribution of these samples and the expansion history of all sub-branches of C2a L1373. We propose that the differentiation of C2a L1373 during the post-last glacial maximum era may correspond to a wave of northward diffusion from the Amur River region to other regions of northern Asia. Currently available ancient and modern DNA data are consistent. Hold on, I got to read that again. Ancient DNA is comporting with modern DNA, folks. It's over. They're consistent with multiple ways of migration model rather than a long-term Beringian standstill model. As you can see here, this is a visual aid to what they're talking about here. The short-term Beringian standstill model is still possible, but the significance had decreased largely than initially thought. More ancient DNA data from remains from 24 to 10,000 years ago in Eastern Siberia may help to provide additional details regarding the process of formation of direct ancestral group of Native Americans in Eurasia. And this is the origin. Here it is. Here it is. Haplogroup Q, Haplogroup C2a. This is what most likely happened. They started off here. Look, 14,000, 17,000 years ago, they disperse, go across to the Beringia, maybe through the coastal route, as you see here, or probably inland, and they make it their way to the Americas. This is cemented. This is factual. This is empirical. How do we know this? The bodies in the ground tell us. The bodies match with the modern Native Americans. The bodies match with Russians. The Russians match with the Ecuadorians and the Brazilians. There's no way around it. You're done. You're finished. You're cooked. It's over. That's game over, man. So we didn't already knock 2 of the claims out. We knocked the Dominican claim out. Now we're knocking the Native Indigenous Indians claim out. We got 10 more videos to make, folks. Hey, and I'm not going to listen. I'm up-to-date science on everything. Up-to-date science on everything, bro. That's what you're going to get from me. Up-to-date science. The timeline doesn't match because, again, you need these people to go back to the Bronze Age Levantine region, and they don't. How do we know this? The ancient specimens show so. As you can see, C2a is in this region. QM242 is in Siberia. These are Native American male lineages. These are the male groups that they go back to, and they date back thousands of years before the Bronze Age Levantine period, before the Israelites, so on and so forth. They have varying haplogroups that are exclusive to these Northern Asians and Native Americans. Exclusive. I mean, you're done. You're cooked, man. Let me read these questions. Let me see if anybody. Let's see if we got any Israelites in the crowd. Let me see what y'all working with here, man. Phil 831 says, I like your take, bro. I want to see you debunk everything you posted in the past because you brought up some very interesting points. To the points where I brought all the books you talked about and read them carefully, always reading. That's good. Keep watching. You're going to see more refutation videos. I don't do debunks. Shout out to Derek Mason. Shout out to Phil. I don't know how you say. How did you get their Hamites from that? The Northeast Asians. That's where their genetic ancestry goes back to geographically. Moore says, I'm waiting for Sakari to come out with a cold remix on Native American doctrine. They're about to go full Benaya and Teo twins and run Dalton Jr. and say QNC was originally black. Shaking my head. They were originally dark skinned, but that's not going to change a damn thing. They still got separate ancestry. Shalom the Railroader. Now one technology says, excuse my ignorance, are those bones before the flood? I'm still learning. I would say no. If you're looking at it from a biblical perspective, I would say no, those bones are not before the flood. Mr. Black Tastic says that dude from UBTV needs to learn this because he puts out the best video productions of false information trying to prove blacks are Native Americans and the Bible takes place in North America. Yeah, that's very nonsensical. Whoever that guy is, that's a very nonsensical ideology. Black Tassin also says it's always sad watching folks in the comments of chat declare the pseudo information to be true and how they need this without any evidence, but only based on the eloquence of the presentation. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Abu says, looking through the live chat, I don't see any comments calling Yashub a Hamite, so I'm guessing one West adjacent ancient watchmen types and Mormons haven't showed up yet. No, they usually watch. They hate watching right now. Safik says they might be quiet in the background looking for some precept to cut Yashub. Yeah, that's what it is. They flipping through the Bible pages right now. I'm going to get his ass. Deuteronomy 28, verse 48. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 48. Yashub is a hybrid Negro limb agent trying to stop the awakening. He's teaching the clear man's science, and trying to make sense. We don't want logic and reason. We on X4 now. I just cut him. Oh, man. Let's see what we got here. Yashub did introduce me to Close Around. Never heard of it to this video. This paper actually refutes the oceanic component. Well, it just says that there's no evidence of it. The oceanic component is heavy, blah, blah, blah. But they would have to accept Polynesian Oceanians. Yeah, the paper refutes that. It says there's no evidence or support to it. I thought I read it. I probably skipped over it. I didn't want to go over the materials and methods. They just draw the video out for no reason. The hypocrisy of claiming it's paternal, not skin color, while using skin color as a qualifier. Exactly. That's what happens. What they do is say, I'm not going off skin color, but then try to use skin color to verify whether or not someone's an Israelite. Well, how you know this guy's Israelite? His grandfather black. You're using skin color. What the fuck? You got to take it to the archaeology too. They're going to say they didn't believe in DNA. The paper dealt with archaeology, D-Red. We dealt with the microblade cultures and linguistic groups and the origins of those groups. You got to take them to the Corral Soup. No, none of that stuff's important. We'll deal with that during the Mexican time. When we deal with the Issachar claim. Yep, just north of Mongolia. They're related to Mongolic speakers. They're related to them. Hibachi, Osaka, all day. Yap gang. They're gonna say the different got attack argument based on how they think. No. It was multi-layered, D-Red. Go back and watch the beginning of the video. Watch the entirety of the video, brother. It was multi-layered. They dealt with archaeology. Anyway. It's almost like they can't believe that Spaniard conquistador did not literally go up and down Central and South America, killing men and taking women. Many of them are European babies. Yeah. And today we're dealing with indigenous remains and indigenous peoples before Europeans, and most of them are largely North Asian. D-Red started texting me them papers. I actually listened to what was discussed in the paper that we brought out. Oh man, I skipped. Y'all let me skip this whole part right here. Why y'all let me skip this part? Man, let me bring this back. Hold on real quick before we leave. How did I skip this part? I don't know how did I skip this whole part right here. Anyway, let me go back to this because this is important because they made the claim on X2a. I even brought this up like Haplogroup X2a. You guys try to use this female lineage to prove that they're Israelites. Watch this. A single ancestor group. Previous studies of ancient genomes tend to assume a single and small ancestor group of Native Americans and then interpret the complex differentiation and admixture process. Here we propose that currently available genetic evidence tends to support the multiple ways of migration model. That's why you see two different major clades of haplogroup Q. And for anybody watching, that's just a fancy way of saying two different male groups. Two different male groups of Q, right? And then haplogroup C was an entirely distinct or different male group. So there's three different male groups that go into America, probably not all at the same time, ancient America, right? So it says here, which was initially suggested by Greenberg 3 decades ago. Some genetic lineages of indigenous peoples of America diffused into America in relative ancient times, for example, 15 to 17,000 years ago for the mitochondrial haplogroups D4H3A and X2A. So this lineage is too damn old to make the claim that this is proof that these people came from the Assyrians or the Assyrian exile. Mitochondrial DNA X2A stems back to 17,000 years ago in the Americas. It's not going back to no ancient Israel. You know what I'm saying? Come on now. Some other lineages separated from their relatives in Northern Asia relatively recently. For example, 14.3 thousand years ago for the paternal haplogroup C2a P39. It is mostly close related lineages like F1756 and 14,000 years ago, and UKY001 individual in the Baikai Lake region. And this is the region that has the P39 SNP, which connects them to the Brazilians and ancient Ecuadorians. I don't know why an ancient Russian sample would connect to these people. The only explanation is they both share common male ancestry. They got the same pappies. They got the same. I don't understand none of that scientifically go. They got the same pappies. All right. That lived in the vicinity of northern Asia, man. Siberia, Russia, the northern boundary of China, those areas, man. These scenarios indicate that some ancestor groups of Native Americans may still reside in low latitude regions of northern Asia, while others have started their expansion in northern America. In general, the large number of found in maternal and paternal lineages and varied emergence expansion times of these lineages do not support a single common ancestor of all Native Americans, which is consistent with the arguments of ancient DNA studies. So we have waves of these groups coming into America as opposed to one group, and one of those groups carried the female lineages, females with this haplogroup or this genetic signature known as X2A. This has nothing to do with ancient Israel. This has everything to do with northern Asia. And it happened 15 to 17,000 years ago. So get that shit out your head. Donald Yates is pseudo. I read that shit from Donald Yates. Okay? And you guys go and try to argue. I seen some Israelite argue Garfield with that, and Garfield didn't know really how to combat it. You understand? Because this is not his lane. He don't take out time and money and effort and trying to learn this shit. Like most Black Hebrew Israelites, they don't try to learn any damn thing about the subject. It doesn't matter to them. That's why I call them dilettantes. What is a dilettante? Let's go to that. Dilettante. And sorry, I missed parts of the paper. I didn't mean to skip over that part there. But I read it anyway. Here we go.
Dilettante.
A person cultivates an area of interest such as arts without real commitment or knowledge. And that explains Black Hebrew Israelites, Afrocentrics, all over it. Y'all don't read the history. Y'all don't know geography. Y'all don't know the basics. Y'all don't care. You don't care. You don't have any commitment. You're not committed to it. You're just in it to propagate a doctrine. That's it. You're just in it to propagate a doctrine. That's why you're a dilettante. That's why. It's like Thomas Sowell, his dad told him, I may not be able to control the outcome, but God damn it, I can control the effort. You guys are piss poor and indolent when it comes to research and study. Appreciate that, Seal the Elect. Now, D-Ray, I may have skipped over the part when they deal with the Polynesians. Let me see if I find that real quick, because this is a real good paper. And I had to, what do you call it? Put up some bread for this one. Anyway, let's see if I can find it. If not, I'll drop it. But when I read it earlier, it clearly said there's no evidence. There's no genetic evidence for it. It talked about the canal or the canoe that they found, and that's where that claim came from, the canoe. But the ancient DNA is not backing up any Polynesian haplogroups. And I'm open to share any articles or any papers that deal with that. And I was sure as hell that this paper, or maybe it was another paper I read, pretty much dispelled that. Anyway, I'm getting ready to close out. So before I leave, any questions, don't leave them at the table. Let me know what your questions are. If there's any remaining questions, more, I see you in the back. If you want to come up and you know, give your piece, brother. Go ahead, man. The floor is yours.
Nah, bro, I was going to jump on earlier, you know what I'm saying, about like an hour and 15 minutes ago when I saw you going in, but I heard you going in, bro, and I was like, let me just stay in the back and just wait for the hibachi button at that moment, you know what I'm saying, because you was literally just walking cats back inch by inch all the way back from America to Siberia. I was like, let me not interrupt the round at all. Let me not talk to the round at all, you know what I'm saying? That was a master class for PhD level. I like that one. Much appreciation. Because like for those who don't know, me and Sean Harris have a Native American mitochondrial DNA and whatnot, and so these Native American arguments are near and dear to our hearts and whatnot. And I appreciate, like you said earlier, I've been noticing how people use your information on this topic or whatnot, and so I 100% appreciate you going back through it, bro. I see what you're doing. You got a clip for every tribe, bro.
Yeah,
every tribe, bro.
Every tribe is playing.
Yeah, gang massacring this piece hot. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Oh, man. But no, yeah, I appreciate it, man. So one question I have is so when I'm looking at this, to me, like the whole 12 tribes chart, the Native American part, the more I look at it, the more I see how it reinforces like Black supremacy in a weird way. But I'll touch on that in a whole nother situation, because me and Sean are working on a mitochondrial aspect of this whole thing, right? And so my question to you is like, so how would they have you try to convince a Native American person that they descended from a Black man from the Levant from a few thousand years ago?
Shared experience. Shared experience. All of it's going to go back to, you were oppressed like I was oppressed in the Americas. That's what binds us. That's what brings us together. And they're going to say Deuteronomy 28. And they're going to go through the whole thing. And they're going to say, oh, well, their food was taken. Their food sources were taken. A country or a people far away from them, from a language they didn't understand, came over here, spreading diseases. And they'll try to line it up with every curse and say, okay, so this is why the Native Americans are Israelites. And this is why African Americans and Native Americans, it's all a shared experience. Argument. That's it. That's all they got. It's saying, hey, we both went through these quote unquote curses, Deuteronomy curses. Therefore, we the sons of Jacob. That's the argument.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to work on.
I know the argument because I used to teach the argument, so they can't bull jive me, brother. I know the argument.
I'm gonna try to work on a pseudo but logical, you know what I'm saying, devil's advocate argument, because I feel the remix coming, right? Because the Native American thing ain't there for Native Americans, right? Like it's there for Black people, right? You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I see it. Because like you're not the demographic for Native Americans isn't that large. I mean, when you add them and the Polynesians up in the North America, we're like around like 3 million people and whatnot. The demographic's mad small. Like that, like I get like the whole like the Latino concept. That's a bigger demographic and whatnot, right? The Native American was just super small, but I can feel the remix coming because the Native American argument is the weak link in the 12 tribes chart, and we see that there's two big groups that are remixing the 12 tribes chart. We see the IUIC's done it like in a major way. And we see that Sakari is tinkering with it right now, trying to figure out how to do a similar thing and whatnot. Because if you don't remix this 12 tribes chart, like Hebrew Israelism is done. The One West concept is done. As you're showing, like, man, again, methodically, just, man, that was death by 1,000 cuts, bro. Like that's rough. That's rough. And my man's not like bragging. He's telling y'all the truth. Like his library game is nasty, particularly when it comes to the Native American stuff. The stuff I've just heard him reference off the top. I'm like, yo, over the past couple years, I'm like, yo, like like, so this is the cold part. Like I am Native American on my mom's side, right? And he got way more literature on this than I got. Way more, because he tried to prove this thing out on a whole nother level before, right? Like, so, like the dope thing about it is like you can hear him going through the same books twice, right? Like going through it once as a BHI, not now going through it once as a non-BHI, and like really having a grasp on the information. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy. Not to mention, like I've never, between you and Adam, the homie on Clubhouse, I've never seen two, like you're the two people who've read, like you went through the most papers out of anybody I've met. Like y'all are crazy. Like every time I talk to y'all got a whole new stack of papers y'all just went through, right? Like it's nuts. Out of everybody we talk to, y'all two go through the most papers in the shows and whatnot. Because again, like that was straight death by 1,000. I dare any one of y'all One West leaders to play that in one of your camp joints. And dare anybody to refute that joint. Like, yo, that's See, that's the cold part, because you are familiar with the arguments because you used to teach that stuff. And so, but that's what I'm saying. The remix is coming. So by the time you come around, I got a few more tribes I can get through before I can come through with the pseudo argument. I'm gonna come through the pseudo logical argument because I think that they got a remix coming, bro. They got a remix coming.
I think the remix is just double down and say DNA fake. You know,
no, they got to embrace it somehow. That's what I'm saying. They got to embrace it somehow. So they're gonna go like on some. They're gonna do like the tail twin stuff to where they're gonna go to autosomal some way, shape, or form, right? And they're gonna do. And then when it comes to Haplogroup, they're gonna go Ron Dalton, where it's like as long as they're gonna try to show how people were black and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out, like, I got a hunch they're gonna fuse it with some Mormon doctrine. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna try to figure I'm gonna figure out a pseudo but yet logical argument for you. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming.
Yeah, man. Hey, Goofy is, Goofy does. That's all I gotta say, man. They do that shit. I'm not worried, bro. I still wait on the debate. You know, I've been waiting on the debate for years. Nobody want to debate this shit, bro. Like everybody running and hiding, because what they do is they see what we can present, and it's like, you know, I don't want none of that. I don't want to get hit with none of that. You know, so it is what it is, man. I'm just gonna, you know, take my time out. Oh, they want to reverse.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the reverse part on this one, bro.
They want to reverse the whole shit, bro.
This is the cold part. I love that you're doing this because they've already blown with the 12 tribes chart. They've already universe card their own 12 tribes chart now. You know what I'm saying? And so, like you smashing it from behind is crazy because it's going to force them to have to remix it even sooner. You know what I'm saying? And whatever remix, you already know what it is on the remix game in the Israelite community, right? Like when they remix something, the first remix is sloppy. You know what I'm saying? They always got to remix the remix. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be a cold footprint that they can't really get around. Like, yeah, this is that point in time where you had to really chop and screw this thing, man.
Yeah, man, the worldview, like your worldview can get away in your understanding. And that's what's happening. Their worldview is the Black Hebrew Israelite ideology. So everything has to support it. Everything has to be the backbone to it. So anything that contradicts that, they can't accept it. They can't accept that Native Americans' closest relatives are in Russia.
Man.
They can't accept that. You know what I'm saying? It goes against everything they say, especially because they condemn Russians. They condemn almost all groups outside of Black, Hispanics, Native Americans, which is weird because all those groups that y'all got on the list overlap with those groups y'all talk about and condemn. You know? So it's just it's the worldview, bro. If they get rid of the worldview, like I got rid of the worldview, I could start to see things more clear. Now I'm reading a Native American history from a historical standpoint, not from a Deuteronomy 28 or Genesis 49 standpoint. They can't quote James Adar. I know the whole book back and forth. I got a whole video dealing with James Adar. They go ahead and quote it. Wasting your damn time.
Yeah, you'll get hurt. So yeah, I'm not trying to stand it too long because you made this nice and succinct. You know what I'm saying? I like. There's one thing I will say. I think this is one of the reasons why it's going to be important to break down. Like I tell people, stay tuned because we got our the Yap Gang, the wives of Shamham and Japheth Model coming out real soon and whatnot. And I think that's also going to be something that buttresses your points here and whatnot, because like people try, like, again, and I'll never understand it, bro. Like they try to use, like you say, like they try to use the X2a to prove a male lineage. I'm like, how do y'all do this? How do you do this? Like, how do you get away with that nonsense? Like, come on now. But like, but in some ways, I see where it can make sense in Native American communities because there's a lot of them that are maternal in their lineage and whatnot. But like that, it doesn't make sense to me, fam. But yeah, like, and stay tuned for me and OG Sean Harris doing the mitochondria route on this thing, because it reinforces everything Yashub said. Like, again, like I'm A2G, man, I'm connected to all kind of people in East Asia, fam. Like I'm all the way to like Cambodia and whatnot, fam. Like the distribution and dispersion is there, from you can see what it is. Like there's like it's confirmed on the male side for what Yashub's talking about, and if you're trying to make this female argument, no, it's confirmed on the mitochondrial side too, fam. It's the same. It's the same route, the same pattern and whatnot.
Yeah,
it's a double hibachi at that junction.
Let me help my brother D Red out, man, because you be making that Polynesian claim, right? So it was a separate paper I was reading earlier. I apologize. It's this paper here. As you can see, I did not want to reveal this paper because I just bought this paper, and this paper is going to be integral to my video on Issachar. But just an early preview for that. But in this paper here, it says there's evidence to suggest that ancient individuals in South America and Polynesia made contact with each other before the arrival of European colonizers. This is what you're referencing, D-Red, right? A similar contact might, and first of all, that what they say to be the evidence is like a canoe and some other abstract things, right? So a similar contact may have been established between Polynesians and Native Americans of North America, given that a type of canoe used by the people in ancient California is thought to reflect the influence of Polynesian cultures. However, Nakatsuka and colleagues found no genetic evidence for contact between individuals of Polynesian and North America. This finding challenges theories of possible Polynesian genetic and cultural influence before colonization in North America. And this paper just came out too, by the way, 2023. So I'm not spoiling much because this is not the genetic paper that I'm going to be going over when I deal with Issachar, when I'm crushing the hearts of Black Hebrew Israelites across America, Lions of Israel, ISU, IC, and all the groups in between, right? ISUPK, when I'm crushing y'all hearts on this. So I'm not giving up too much, but I just wanted to show you that paper. Up-to-date science cannot comport or confirm that actually happened. We're still waiting on the data to confirm that Polynesians and Native Americans, it's not really a big deal. Polynesians, mainly Haplogroup C2a or whatever, blase, but we don't see the direct evidence in the burials to show that, hey, this actually did happen. So that's the up-to-date science on that matter in that regard. But more, you got anything else you want to share with the people, or anything coming up that your channel, shout outs, anything you want to make them aware of?
Yeah, that's right here, because my man's is too humble to do this himself, but I'm gonna say, like, that was, like, I was thoroughly impressed with that. That was a legit, like, masterclass on some stuff, right? So if you learned something, you benefited from this, like, please donate to your boy. Hit your boy up, like, you know what I'm saying? Because like he's saying, he's paying for these studies that he's freely educating everybody with, right? This isn't a free enterprise for him. This is a labor of love for your boy, because he's literally, he drops a lot of money on studies, a lot of money on books, etc. whatnot, right? So and again, he puts it together nice and concise. And when you go through the sources and then you line them up, like there's not much you can really do. And so I humbly ask it, if you benefited from this, you know what I'm saying, bless your boy right quick, because again, this is a labor of love for him.
All right. They can bring that up too, man, and that'll be much appreciated, man, to all my supporters out there. And you know, if you do donate, it's going right back to the channel, man. It's going right back to some resources. You already know how I'm rocking. So D-Red says they gonna quote from Friday on London. Okay, I got videos doing that too. So they're gonna quote from James Adair, of course, Lost Tribes, Promised Land. I've already corrected Sakari on that. They go to Montezinos and say, try to buttress the claim that the tribe of Ephraim is in Puerto Rico, because he said that he was with the tribe of Reuben. He was with the tribe of Reuben in Quito. He says where he's at. He's in Quito, which is in Ecuador. But they think he's saying he's in Florida. Why? Because there's an old Black Hebrew Israelite teaching where that's how they interpret that scripture, that verse in that book, that they're in Florida. But actually, if you read the book from the beginning of the chapter, he's in Quito, Ecuador. And the island he's talking about is the what's that island more off Ecuador? What is that island? I can't even think of the name of the island right now. Ecuador Island. Let me put up it start with a G. The Galapagos Islands. The Galapagos Islands. So it's not even succinct with their argument, because they're trying to say that island is Puerto Rico. No, that's in Ecuador. It's in the Pacific, and it's the Galapagos Islands that he's claiming that the tribe of Ephraim's at. So, yeah, pseudo is and pseudo does. With that, I'm gonna say shalom, peace. I'm out. And this 7 candle sticks up. And I've been telling you niggas, it ain't a debate. It's a stick up gang.